Hey, sports fans, PBC Sports Chaos. And guess what? This is a special edition. My cohort, Mr. PB, is celebrating his birthday today. He is 29 once again. This is like the 14th year in a row. He's been 29. Congratulations.
Thanks, my man.
All right. Another congratulations. Houston Astros. I know I don't like the pukes. They did win the World Series. I'm not congratulating them. I am congratulating Dusty Baker finally winning a World Series. Good for you, Dusty. And what does it Houston do? They fired the GM and the assistant GM this week. Good for you, Houston. You guys know what you're doing, all right. Hey, I don't want to jinx this, PB, but before we get into football, we're going to talk a lot of football here, fans. The Bruins, oh my God. This is unbelievable. They're now, what, 12 and 2, I think it is, or 10 and 2, right? They're smoking. They're 8-0 at home, by the way. So, by the way, Kyrie, thank you for getting the suspension and not letting Ime Udoka getting hired because of all the publicity around you, you puke. All right, let's talk football. College football had some shockers last week. Georgia beat off AP number 1. Georgia beat college football playoff number 1 Tennessee convincingly. I thought when I watched the game, I watched it on a replay, and I thought Georgia looked impressive. We'll talk about that. LSU, both you and I called them to cover the game last week, but maybe what we didn't think would happen is they would win against Bama. They did in overtime. Brian Kelly had guts. He went for 2 to win the game. You play to win the game, as Herm Edwards says. So good for Brian Kelly. We'll talk about that momentarily. But the one thing I got to say, the University of Miami, we both picked them, and PB, it's over. It's time for them to go to 1AA. That's a horrible, horrible program. 45-0 lost to your crosstown rivals. FSU.
That was.
I mean, ridiculous. You're down there. What's the talk?
Yeah, there isn't any. They're falling right off the map. I mean, you still see people walking around with the U stuff on, and people with the license plates and all that kind of stuff. But man, they're better off rooting for FAU.
All right. Hey, college football playoffs. We're into week 2 of the rankings. Week 3 coming up, I guess. But Georgia is now number 1. Ohio State number 2. Michigan number 3. And TCU is in at number 4. There's no Bama. Is Bama done after that loss, right? They got 2 losses now, correct?
Yeah, or if not 3, but yeah, definitely 2. Yeah, I mean, they lost to LSU. LSU's another team that's got 2 losses. So LSU kind of holds the edge on them now, right? If you're even considering a 2-loss team.
So, by the way, I think last week when they came out with the first rankings, I said, hey, who's got a long shot opportunity? And one of us, I don't know if it was me or you, said, maybe LSU if they win this weekend. All of a sudden, there they are. They've got 2 losses. One of them was bad to Tennessee. But if they run the table, which they can, and get in and win the SEC championship, does a 2-loss team make it to the college football playoffs in your mind? I
mean, if any team can do it right now, that scenario would probably play out. I think that's the only way that could even be considered. But it really is going to depend on what happens because, TCU, now that they're in there, they're still undefeated, but they got a tough game, Texas, right, this week.
Yeah, so today. That's right. College game days there.
Right. So with a 2-loss LSU team that runs the table and wins the SEC championship, jump a 1-loss TCU team, right?
Or a one-loss Pac-12, right?
Well, if the Pac-12 can, yeah, right.
Yeah, there's potential you could have that. Oregon can run the table at this point in time. I know they have an ugly loss to Georgia in game 1. People don't want to forget that, I don't think. So we'll see. But I don't know. I think LSU, if they win the SEC, they probably have to get in because the playoff committee likes conference championships. So if they win it, as long as they don't lose any other games, they're in, I think, unfortunately. All right, let's do some picks. Last week, G Money came out of the trash and was 3-1. Good for him. You were 2-2. I was 1-3. I'm not having a good year in this thing. This week, we got a little theme going on. Lower ranked home favorites. We're going to talk about this, starting with North Carolina, number 15 in the country, to go to unranked Wake Forest. Wake is ranked is favored by 3.5. What do you think?
I like the underdog in the points here. I'll take the 3.5 with North Carolina, even though even though they're playing on the road.
I am with you. By the way, Wake Forest, it's like 10 miles away from North Carolina. So not a big road game in my mind. Yeah, I'm with you. G-Money, he likes UNC as well. So that might make me a little nervous, but he was 3-1 last week. All right. Number 19, K-State. The Big 12 has been just crazy this year. They've had ranked teams. TCU's beat them all, by the way. They go to Baylor, who shocked my Sooners last week, gave them their third loss. I'm distraught right now. Baylor's a 2.5-point favorite in that game at Baylor. What do you think?
Again, I like the road team coming in and getting the points here. I think Baylor's going to be like high off of that win from last week, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to let down. And K-State's been more consistent as throughout the year than Baylor has been. So I'm going to go with K-State in this one.
You're reading my notes. I got K-State as well.
Okay.
All right, G-Money's got Baylor. All right, the big one, TCU, number 4 in the country against number 18, Texas. We're going to pick the spread that's 7.5 that went the other night. Now it's back down to 7, but we're going to take the 7.5 because I like that number, 7.5. What do you think?
Yeah, and for the third straight pick here, I'm going to go with the road team that's getting the points. I mean, I think these home teams are getting points like Vegas is looking at that, and they're using the home field advantage to give them their points, and I don't really think that's the way these games are going to play out. So give me 7.5. I'm going to take the road team here. I'll take TCU.
I'm with you on that, man. Hey, by the way, Max Duggan is suddenly the guy that didn't start game 1 is suddenly now in the Heisman running. 4-year player at TCU. I love to see it.
And who does G-Money got in that one?
G-Money has, believe it or not, Texas.
Okay. So,
all right. Number 9. We talked about them a minute ago. Alabama. They're a 12-point favorite on the road at Ole Miss. What do you think? Hey, by the way, it's Lane Kiffin, who was a former Bama assistant coach under Nick Saban, which historically Nick has killed his assistants for the most part until he lost to Kirby, but last year.
Yeah. I'm going to go for the pick 4 here, whatever we call it, foreplay.
Little college foreplay.
I'm going to go with the dog again. So I'm going to pick all 4 dogs. This one happens to be a home dog, but I'm going to take the 12.5 with Ole Miss. I don't think Alabama's going to lose another game. I think they'll win, but I think Ole Miss can keep it close enough. Maybe it's 7 to 10 point game. So I'll take.
I'm with you on that. I would 12 points seems to be a crazy number. Alabama, who's played in 4 games less than 4 points this year, I don't see it happening. Ole Miss as well. G-Money's Ole Miss as well. So all right. NFL, we had a couple shockers last week. We'll talk about that as a little underline to what we're going to talk about this week. Detroit beat Green Bay. You guys picked that. I'm shocked by that. One thing we didn't see happening was Jets beating the Bills and knocking out Josh Allen. That's what the discussion point. Indy fires Frank Reich, and this is where we're going to start off because this is the shocker of the year. They hired not a guy from the staff as an interim, but a guy out of ESPN doing what we're doing right now, Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
It's pretty funny. It's kind of like the Patriots hiring like Rodney Harrison or something, right? It's interesting. I think that maybe they're trying to just shake things up a little bit. Maybe they're trying to, sell some tickets. Maybe they're trying to, get some good offensive line coaching in there. I don't know. I mean, this team.
Well, that is their problem. Offensive line is their problem. Matty Ice should be the starter. I don't care what anybody says, but the offensive line can't protect him, and he's going to get killed. Yeah. And if Jeff Saturday can tweak that and bring Matty Ice back, you know what? Personally, I listened to him enough on ESPN. He's not just a blowhard. I think he knows his shit. I don't think he would have taken the job if he didn't think he could do it, because he seems to be a pretty honest guy that says, you know what, I can do this, I can't do that.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure he doesn't want to end up with egg on his face and being this lame hire. Like, what the hell were they doing hiring this guy? So I think he has some pride there, right? That he wants to do well with the team. Now, is he going to turn his team around and contend for the playoffs? Probably not. But if he can win some games against decent teams, we'll see. Maybe he'll get the job next year. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I'm rooting for him. We're going to pick that game, by the way, just because of that factor. Hey, by the way, a little DYK for you. TB12, our friend, Mr. Tom Brady, friend of the show, went over 100,000 yards passing for his career. Now, PB, as a kid, I mean, no one's even over 40,000 yards when I first started rooting for football career-wise. 100,000 yards. We've talked about sometimes on our show a number that will never be caught up to. Can someone catch 100,000 in your opinion?
My God, I mean, I would say no, and one of the reasons is it seems like all these quarterbacks coming out of college now they love to run the football, and they're not, Lamar doesn't put up 300-yard passing games. Justin Fields certainly isn't going to be putting up 300-yard passing games. These type of quarterbacks aren't the type that can do. Now, could
Mahomes do it? Mahomes could, but is he going to play 20? Could he play 21 years though?
Right. Could someone like a Trevor Lawrence do that over time? Someone like a Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, players like that. Well, Josh Allen loves to run too, so he might not be the best example.
No, he's not doing it.
But you look at players that aren't reliant on the run. But these days, coming out of college, I feel like you have that first round draft picks. You have 4 quarterbacks that go in the first round, just say on average. I feel like 2 or 3 of them are that running style RPO option, type players. So I don't think it's going to be done in our lifetime for sure. Forever in football, who knows?
By the way, speaking of the running quarterbacks, Josh Allen took a nasty injury last week, ulnar nerve injury, whatever. I didn't realize this is the second time he's had an injury to that same exact injury in his career. So should he play this week or not, in your opinion, against Minnesota?
Yeah, so they say it's not a pain management thing. So that means, if it were a pain management thing, he'd probably play through it. You don't want to damage whatever's damaged further. I probably, considering his status with that team, it would make sense to just rest him and make sure he's ready for the playoffs. I mean, this team's making the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. They're probably the odds-on favorite to win the entire Super Bowl this year. Up there with the likes of Kansas City, but why risk it? Like, why? I mean, I know it's a big game. Minnesota's one of the best teams in the NFC. There's that whole Minnesota 0-4 in Super Bowls, Buffalo 0-4 in Super Bowls, right? So it's like kind of that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It would be nice to have them see them play in the Super Bowl, but
BB, you just made a point though. I want to ask you about this though. Think about this for a second. You said they're making the playoffs easily. They're 6-2. They lose this game. They're 6-3. The Jets are 3 losses. The Bills are 3 losses. And oh, by the way, not the Bills. I'm sorry, the Dolphins. Both those teams have beat the Bills, correct?
Yes.
So they have a leg up on them at this point in time in the division, theoretically, if they lose this week. So to me, this is a pretty big game. I think you got to, by the way, the play after he hurt his arm, he threw the ball 69.5 yards in the air, the longest throw in the air this year in the NFL. It was incomplete, but after that, I mean, so I think you got to play him, man. I think they got 2 gimme games next 2 games after this. And oh, by the way, the guy's backing him up. He's not too shabby. He happened to get Minnesota into the playoffs a couple of years back against New Orleans, Case Keenum, right?
Yeah, that's true. Here's the thing, though. He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Thursday. He had a limited practice on Friday. I'm not saying he needs to practice in order to be effective, but at the same time, it's that whole game plan and the reps with those guys that.
No, I get it. I don't
know. I feel like it's going to be a game time decision. We're going to find out, obviously, at 90 minutes prior to kickoff at 11:30. They have to officially list their inactives, and we'll find out if he's active or inactive on that. He may be active but be the backup. Who knows? They might play Keenum and just keep him available in case Keenum goes out and just absolutely blows up, and they can bring him in. I don't know. It's a tough call.
You know what? If he's in the game, run the ball all day long because he can run the ball with that injury. So let him run. Hey, by the way, Nakeem Hines might play a big role in this case, right? So we'll see, right?
Yep.
All right. Let me get on to the next one I got for you. Green Bay, they lost again. We just mentioned that momentarily to Detroit. You picked it. G-Money picked it. They played Dallas this week. We're going to pick that game. But I got a question for you. If they lose another game or 2 games, Should Jordan Love, that's been the talk all week. Should Jordan Love get a chance to play this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's Rodgers' fault. I mean, they're decimated at wide receiver.
But is it? He could have came into the OTAs. He could have showed up early for preseason, right? He could have played with those guys a little more often, right?
Those are good points. Those are good points. I mean, at some point, yeah, you got to turn hand the baton over here, because how many years does Rodgers have left? Is Rodgers even going to want to play another year after this year? Or is he going to go out on the bottom, or is he going to say, hey, I'm ready to come back and we're going to revamp this team? I don't know. That's a tough call. That's a tough call. Because are you doing that in a bench? You're basically benching Aaron Rodgers, right?
By the way, I would not be unhappy at all. It would make me, it's like getting Kyrie off the NBA.
But it's almost like right. But it's like saying, what if the Bucks lose to Seattle this week and go to 3-5 or 3-6 or whatever? Are they gonna, or 4-6, whatever it would be? Are they gonna start Kyle Trask next week? Like, it's not even a question. I'm guessing in the Green Bay front office, it's not even a question. Like, Rodgers plays.
Okay. All right. You mentioned running quarterbacks. Justin Fields, finally, they're letting him run the ball after a year and a half. He looks like a real quarterback and no longer like an Ohio State quarterback that can't play in the NFL. What do you think?
Yeah, I still get nervous about quarterbacks that run that much. I really do. I feel like they're a game away, a la RG3, from being very talented and very effective for a very short period of time, and then just bam, you're done, kind of thing. So I'm a little nervous about that.
He has looked surprisingly better. I got to give him some kudos. I mean, by the way, he did also throw for 3 TDs last week, and he ran for the one with 178 yards rushing. So he did show a little bit of polish behind the center throwing the ball. We'll see. You had one.
And the other thing is, they have 2 really good backs. I mean, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert can carry the rock. You know what I mean? So that makes it even more dangerous, and also more. You think there would be more opportunities for him not to feel like he has to run the ball all the time.
Well, and by the way, the highlights I saw, he didn't take any big hits. I mean, like, he clearly outran the defense, even to getting out of bounds. Unlike Josh Allen, who for some reason likes to run through somebody before he gets out of bounds, right? He didn't take any hits.
Right. Josh Allen likes to run people over.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Which is going to end up where he is right now, right? Even though that was on a passing play. All right, you had one other takeaway from last week. What was that one you had about a quarterback situation?
Which one? Sorry.
I forget now as well. All right. We will move on. Hey, by the way, Carolina beat Atlanta. There's no team in the NFC South over 500. And Carolina is in last place, but they beat every team in the Atlantic and the NFC South so far.
Right.
I mean, is that the worst division? We used to make fun of the NFC East for the last 3 years on the show, but NFC South is clearly the worst division.
Yeah, by far. All right.
Speaking of the NFC South, let's get into our pick 6 last week. G-Money was not as good as his 4-play. He was only 3-3. You and I were 4-2. We're going to start out with the NFC South. Being in Germany this week, Tampa Bay plays Seattle. First time ever we've played in Germany, any NFL team. By the way, Tom Brady, little known fact, DYK, undefeated in international grounds.
Yep, as is Seattle as a team is also undefeated in international games. They're 2-0.
By the way, Tampa Bay itself is 0-3.
Right. So, interesting opportunity here for the Bucs. I think last week's win against the Rams, you could see how ecstatic Brady was. I mean, he went right up there. And he was like hugging him, and he's like hugging him out and everything else. And he's like, "This is it, man. We're gonna figure this shit out. We're gonna turn it around." So I think Tampa's gonna ride that momentum. Seattle's, it's Geno Smith has been impressive. Kenneth Walker obviously is really, really been impressive. You still got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I mean, that offense can do some stuff, and their defense is starting to play pretty well. I mean, everything about this game says Seattle should be able to win. But I just have this feeling that Brady, in this atmosphere, in this international stage, is going to step up So I'm gonna take the Bucks in this one. Reluctantly, perhaps, but I'm gonna take the Bucks.
I am with you as well as G Money too. And by the way, I will say this: one big spot for the Tampa Bay is Antoine Winfield comes back to play safety this week. He's been out for 7 weeks. I love that kid at safety, so we'll see. But you're right, Seattle. I love Geno Smith having a surprise come back, huge year. Good for him. All right, the other game we're going to talk about only because it's the next coach on the chopping block. Las Vegas Raiders. They host Indianapolis for Jeff Saturday. Is Josh McDaniels going to be beat by the ESPN sports guy?
Yeah, right. Yeah, McDaniels doesn't deserve to be a head coach in the NFL. I'm sorry. I mean, he already tanked one franchise with the Broncos when he took them over. He's doing the same thing with the Raiders, right?
I thought he learned this lesson, but apparently not.
Right. And remember all the guys they were getting on defense and stuff in the offseason, and then they got Devontae Adams, and we're like, oh, reconnection with Derek Carr, and we're just like, this is going to be the team. Well, we thought it might be. Of course, I didn't predict them to even make the playoffs at the beginning of the year because I knew that Josh McDaniel was their coach and he would figure out a way to tank the franchise. But that being said, I don't see enough out of Indy, man. They look horrible last week against the Patriots. I know they coached them up. Their defense played well. I want to take the Colts badly in this game for some reason, but I just can't do it. I think the Raiders at home can win this. So I'm going to take the Raiders. Again, I'm probably going to lose this pick, but I'm going with the Raiders.
I was close to being with you on the Raiders, but they're missing two huge players, in my opinion. Tight end Darren Waller and little slot receiver Hunter Renfrow. I don't see it happening at this point in time. I think Jeff Saturday rallies the troops. I hope the hell he plays for Matty Ice. I got the Colts in this one, and so does in G Money. All right. The other quarterback on the hot seat, Aaron Rodgers. He hosts the Dallas Cowboys this week. What do you think?
I don't even think this game is close. They have like no receivers. They're going to have to rely on Aaron Jones, who fortunately did not suffer a serious injury, but he suffered an injury. He was pulled from the game last week. And AJ Dillon out of the backfield. I mean, I just don't see how this team can even score on Dallas. Dallas' defense is fierce. I think what did they score 9 points against Detroit, one of the worst defenses in the league. I think this week they are lucky if they get a field goal. I mean, I really don't think this team's going to score. They might be able to handle Dallas here and there on, defensively. Dallas still puts up somewhere in the mid 20s. So I looked at this game like 24-3, 27-0, something like that. Dallas.
G Money likes Dallas as well. I am tempted to take Green Bay because I think Mike McCarthy's going to lay a big egg in his homecoming here at Green Bay. The pressure's going to be on him to win this game. This proved that he shouldn't have been fired. But I can't go against Dallas. I'm with you. I get Dallas as well. All right. The big one, not so big now if Josh can't play, but Minnesota at Buffalo.
Yeah. And it's tough. Some people might say I can't really pick this game until I know whether Josh Allen's playing or not. My theory on it is I don't care if Josh Allen's playing or not. I think Buffalo's the better team. Buffalo's the more talented team. Case Keenum has been taking his first team reps all week. So he's probably got that all figured out. You still got the likes of Stephon Diggs. You still got, you had mentioned earlier, Naheem Hines, who could really add to that third down passing game. And Singletary as well. I mean, I think Buffalo's offense will do enough to be able to win this game. I don't see them running up into the 30s, but I think they can score like 24 points in this game. And their defense is going to win them the game. I think and I've seen Minnesota get flat, and they can get really confused against really good defenses. Right. And I think that, despite the fact that they now have Hawkinson, and we talked about this last week, and they got Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, those are, probably the best trio of a running back, receiver, tight end in the league. But But I think Buffalo's defense wins them the game. So I'm going to take Buffalo, kind of a low scoring game, believe it or not.
G Money has Buffalo. I'm going to go Buffalo as well. Don't forget, Case Keenum played in Minnesota. So another guy with a little bit of momentum on his side to play against a former team. And he was the author of one of the greatest comeback wins in playoff history with that last play to none other than Stephon Diggs, his wide receiver in Minnesota, right?
Yeah. And you got Dalvin Cook playing his little brother James Cook in this game too.
Yeah. All right, next game we got two very disappointing teams. A lot of high expectations for them coming this year. The defending Super Bowl champs Rams host the Cardinals. What do you think?
The Rams got to figure some stuff out here, man. Stafford's still questionable with his concussion, right?
Yes.
And Wolford could play that game. And Murray's questionable as well going into this game. This is hard to pick. I don't even want to pick this one. I didn't want to pick it. I like what I'm seeing out of, DeAndre since he's come on. Rondale Moore's starting to step up a little bit. James Conner's back. What's the where is it being played?
It's playing in LA.
I think only because it's in LA. I'm going to take LA, but this is a complete dart throw for me.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm taking them because of their defense. I think their defense stands up in this game. G Money likes the Cards. I can see why he's saying that, but I'm going to go Rams like you. All right, last one real quick. We got Chargers, G Money Super Bowl team. They're going to San Fran, who everybody's in love with now because of Christian McCaffrey. What do you think?
Yeah, and not only that, but they also have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and Jimmy Garoppolo is thrown for 2 touchdown passes in 3 or 4 straight games now. So,
and the Chargers have no receivers. Keenan and Mike Williams are both out, right?
Both out, right? Which means that your number 1 guy is Josh Palmer, and your number 2 guy is DeAndre Carter. You do have Austin Eckler, obviously, who was going to get his yards from scrimmage like he always does. But Herbert's been playing hurt. That rib injury he suffered in a couple weeks into the season, I think, is bothering him. He's trying to play through it. It's probably
that's a good point.
Type injury. Their defense has been lackluster at best. I mean, they're middle of the pack. Everyone thought this was going to be a top defense.
Right.
I think, believe it or not, I think San Francisco blows them out. I think San Francisco wins this game by 2 touchdowns, maybe even more.
I'm with you, G Money, as well. So we all got San Fran on this one. Porn star Jimmy, as Steve A likes to call him, right? All right, brother. Happy birthday once again. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.